Three, two, one. And we're live. Welcome, GSD leaders, to the number one time suck. And Amanda, let us know what we're talking about today.
Talking about all that fun administrative work, admin work.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite.
I'm Angela Profit, founder of GSD Creative, where we get stuff done, edited for video so we don't get banned. Yay. And
Can't
Amanda?
you just tell she likes saying stuff?
I can't stand it. It's so not me.
Are we doing intros? Yeah. I'm Amanda, and I am a GSD queen.
Queen.
As I was told to put in my little name tag here. And then Aja.
Yes, as always, I am Aja Price. Excited to be here today. I do own a company called Notably Gray, but I like to say that I am the GSD princess.
And we're the
Rightfully
18.
so.
So thank you for everybody who submitted answers to our question, which is, what is your number one time suck? So in week 1, we talked about the first number one time suck, and that was emails, which is not surprising at all. So if email is your number one time suck, be sure that you go back to our lives, which are on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and listen to the email portion. And then last week, we talked about social media scrolling, which was the second number one time suck. And today, like Amanda said, is admin time sucks. So we're going to dive in and give you guys a few productivity tips. So when you walk away this evening, and make sure you have your favorite drink. Amanda reminded me that it is Friday Eve. I'm drinking water because
Oh no, I don't have a drink.
I still have too much to do tonight before going to bed. So I'm going to stick with water. What are you drinking, Amanda?
I've got some good prebiotic apple cider vinegar health drink. So I'm not drinking anything either.
What you got, Asha?
I actually don't have any type of drink, but I just realized that it is 5 o'clock somewhere in California, Pacific time. It's 5, right? So I hope that everyone.
It's 6, but good good try.
I thought it was 3 hours. Wow. Okay. Well, anyways, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So no, not tonight. Maybe next time.
Awesome. All right, Amanda, kick us off.
Yes.
What's our first question for this evening?
All right. So we got a lot of, I don't know if pain points is the right word. I feel like it's a pain point for everyone. All the administrative work. I think everybody, loves to be active in their business and be doing all the things. But when it comes to sitting down and doing the stuff that has to be done, it's not fun.
No.
So Natasha, Rich, Robert, Nicole, and Jim all told us admin work is their number one time suck. So paperwork. Let's start with paperwork. How do we feel about paper?
Not.
No.
No feelings.
Why are you guys using paper? That's my first question. So out of all the apps that we use, what can you guys think of where we would have to use paper?
So first step, contracts. We use HelloSign or DocuSign, and that's kind of the first step. But where do you put that? We put that in Dropbox because it's a hard copy. I kind of really jumped in there. So
yeah.
Any other suggestions on paper? Also, if you're doing any purchase orders or anything like that, even if you have a paper copy, if you can somehow scan it, make it digital, and then shred that paper copy, it'll really get rid of all that extra clutter, and you'll just have a digital file box for it in Dropbox.
I was just being quiet over there. What about your paper?
No, I'm like trying to make sure that my phone's turned all the way down. Okay, so when I think about my journey and like what I used paper for, there were several things. So to take notes, right? And then anything like, Amanda was referencing contracts or any like document that I would want to share with the client. Like, I'm like, what softwares can replace this? And thank goodness for the GSD team. I find that using Google Drive and Dropbox really replaced both of those for me, in addition to software that makes things running business a little bit easier, like you said, HelloSign, and sending contracts. But really, when I think about like, why did I use paper and what did I start? It was honestly like everything that I can do now is in Google Drive. So when I want to start an Excel doc, or I think it's called Sheets in G Suite, and then, you know, a document essentially to be shared with clients, using, goodness, it's a document. I think it's called a document, right, in G Suite. So I definitely think that like we don't really need paper, and I'm sure that Angela agrees. But when I like I said, when I sit down to think about all the times and things I did when I used paper, I could replace that 100% with Google Drive, and then also to Dropbox.
Well, and I will say from a note-taking perspective, just open a note on your phone. And I mean, I have over 1,000 notes, but the key is to give yourself a subject or like a title in each note so that you can just simply search for it. So, like if I have a call with a prospect or a call with someone that hasn't quite made it into a client phase yet, then I'm going to put like call with Joel or call with Aja or whomever and take notes from that. So I can always go back and reference it instead of writing it down. And then I can search it. But if someone has converted to become a client, then they're going to be part of that process, which they're going to get a folder with their name, and we have templates set up. And I don't really use paper. So I'm not sure, like, in terms of paperwork, what people so much are talking about. Like, I'm thinking, like, I still do get a few things in the mail that will be paper with like an envelope asking me to like return something, like mail me a check or something. But 9 times out of 10, you can go on the back of it and it's got a website where you can go on an ePay. And that's what I do. So I don't really, maybe they were just referring to like paperwork in general, which is like online stuff. The other thing I will say is when people send us stuff to sign and they're like, please print, scan, or please print, sign, and scan back to us. I'm like, nah, if you have an iPhone, you can open that attachment on your phone, sign it with your finger, and then hit the little box with the arrow in the upper right-hand corner, and then it's going to email that person back that document with your signature. Or you can, if you have an iPad, you can import it into an app called GoodNotes. I think it's like a $7 app, but I love it because it does make you feel like if you love to write things down and like use the little Apple Pencil, it does give you that feeling, or gives me that feeling of like, I marked it off, I'm done kind of thing. So there are apps like that you can pull things into and still like write on them. So that would be all that I have to do about paperwork. I don't know. I don't have do paperwork anymore.
I agree. And there is something that I want to share. So several things. I don't know if this particular question was more for of like a e-filing, because I know that like it's really easy to just like start those documents. And then like when you go back, I'm like, oh wow, like I don't even know what happened to my home drive, but it is so messy. So I don't know like if the question is, and Angela, I would love to hear your insight on this as far as like a process for organizing those e-files and documents, like once you start them, because I know that that can be kind of overwhelming. But then another thing too, which I cannot believe I have not shared yet, Rocketbook, which I think I told Angela about this. And if you all have ever heard of it, it's a smart notebook. And so if you still need that like feel of taking notes, this notebook, it actually is, you upload the page and it automatically goes to its respective folders, I guess electronically, which is really, really neat. But I think the whole overarching thing that I keep hearing is making sure your stuff is backed up and in the cloud, but like electronically and not just in paper, because I mean, you could lose things, people could take things, or what? I don't want to think of worst case scenarios, but
break into your car and steal your purse and your planner being there. Hey, Drew, what's up? Thanks for joining us. If you let us know, he said Instagram is his number one time suck. Instagram. So I do have a thought on that, actually, a few thoughts on Instagram. But before we move over to that topic, I want to wrap up, Aja, what you were saying. So the key to making sure you're organizing your papers that are in the cloud, it's just like or think of a filing cabinet. Typically, back in the day, when you had manila folders and you would alphabetize them or put a label on them and alphabetize them, it's the same way with Dropbox and Google Drive or any of your project management softwares. You've got to give it a name. And you have to make sure that your entire team is following whatever process you are setting up as the leader. And like our internal documents, it's like if there's a project deadline or an event, we put the date just because I like to see everything in date order, and then first name, last name of the client. So, or the company. And again, you've got to come up with your own process. I actually had a client, Marco Polo, me today, and she's like, I love that you've gotten us on this Google Drive thing, but like, I can't find things. Like, I know you started folders, but then we started using it outside of your folder internally for our company and our needs. And now, like, stuff's everywhere. And she's like, is there a third party app that can like organize all this stuff? And so I'm like, well, Google, I don't know about like their open API key if they, talk to other apps, which they do, I believe, but I haven't found like a great project management system that is going to organize all of that. So there might be something coming, new business flash. I don't know, who knows. But as far as Instagram and going over to your number one time suck, Drew, Instagram, I personally set a timer, and then there's a feature within the app where you can set a timer. And Aja, you actually showed me where that was. So can you share with Drew like where that timer is, and like once you've met the time for the day, what happens? Because I've never used it actually.
Yeah, so I actually it's not so much on the app. I actually had to go into my settings on my phone and set limits for different applications. But it is it's under settings. It's where we start, and then you go to the respective app or the application, and then that'll be an option to put a time limit daily on that particular application. But I'm ashamed to say this: my daily limit for Instagram is 3 hours, and yes, it is 3 hours, and unfortunately, I have hit that many a time. But the good thing about it is it lets you know, like upfront, how much time you got left. And then it'll say like, hey, Drew, you've reached your time limit for today. Do you want to ignore that or just like get off the app? So you do have that option, but definitely setting a time limit per application is kind of how I was able to manage my time wisely and get off the app when I needed to.
But I do want to clarify something for anyone who's watching or listening, or whenever you listen to this or watch it. Aja is not just scrolling for 3 hours. I guarantee you that you are creating content. You are engaging with people who are commenting and liking your content.
Right.
And then you are going and engaging. So when people tell me, oh my God, I've spent 3 hours, I'm like, well, that's great. But what were you doing in those 3 hours? Because if you take half the time that you are scrolling and creating to get your brand message out there, you would be getting an ROI on your time based on how much time you're spending if you're actually putting content out there. So that's awesome.
And Drew, I wanted to tell you, I did find it. It's under screen time. So if you go to settings and then screen time, app limits, then you can set your daily limits for each app that you want to. So,
and Drew, I actually told my brother to connect with you on some stuff a few months ago. Robert Young, I don't know if he ever did, but side note. Anyway, Amanda, what's our next question?
All right. So to continue on to the admin subject, and I think, Angela, you can have some insight to share on this. Bookkeeping, taxes, financial stuff. I know it's a big, broad subject, but what high points, tips, and tricks do you have? Any fun stories to share?
I'm dying.
Number one, outsource that shit. Outsource that stuff. So the first thing is, if you're a small business, and I don't care how small you are, okay? Small can mean a lot of different things. Small can mean under $30,000 in revenue a year. It can mean $300,000. It can mean $3 million to some companies that are pulling in $10 million in revenue. You've got to use a software such as QuickBooks to track your stuff. Now, that's step one, is just getting the software. But more importantly, step two is to hire a professional, someone who knows how to set up your QuickBooks appropriately. Number three, continue to have them work your QuickBooks for you and just get your monthly reports. And you should know what a P&L is, profit and loss statement. And you do need to know where your money is going. Don't be like me, where you're not paying attention and then you get stolen from. And I've learned a lot. And the other thing I will say is make sure you're looking at it monthly. I was a little naive. I knew we worked hard. I knew that there was always money there, but I didn't necessarily start to pay attention until we get hacked. We used to get hacked a lot. Like, I travel a lot. We all have like company credit cards, and things would get caught. And then I started asking questions, and then I learned all kinds of things. So the moral of the story is like, make sure that you're reconciling every single month, all of your accounts, and also make sure that you're actually being profitable. So listing all your services, tracking all of your hours, and it sounds so simple, but once you really know the worth of your time and the value of your time and the value you bring to your client, you start to become aware of if this is a good opportunity or not. So your profit and loss can really give you some insight into your numbers. So definitely rely on software and automation, but at least look at it once a month so that you know what's going on. The other thing is we invoice through there. So our accountant goes in the first of every month and invoices our clients. And we actually have our calendar that is linked to QuickBooks, and it can pull in through Google. I think it only syncs with Google Calendar right now. And then we pull our Google Calendar into our Mac calendar. But if you are consistent, just like with anything else we're talking about right now, in the names, you can, it's really cool because the first of every month, our accountant can go in there and type in a client's name. And as long as myself and anyone on the team, mainly Amanda, that's because Amanda is the GSD queen, managing the calendar. If you put it in the same way every single time, then you can search that in the invoice and then it pulls all the hours in. So it's very effective, and you just have to set it up once. It's really awesome. Aja, you have any thoughts?
Yes, I do. And for the small business owners out there who don't have, when you're just really starting out and don't have as a robust budget, is what I'll say. I just remember like reading and just like from all the mentors that I've worked with, the first thing to invest in when you do have the opportunity to outsource 100% an accountant. And there are some teams out there, accounting firms, that you don't necessarily need monthly. But maybe you put them on for a one-time thing to kind of file your things at the end when you need to file them or when you need to start up. But there are some really great accounting firms out there that will teach you basically how to do it yourself and what to look for monthly and how to reconcile some of those things monthly. That's how I started. It was not fun. I'm just going to keep it real with you. It was not fun at all. But it allowed me, this is the best way I can say it. I had more appreciation for where I was spending my money, where everything was going, what was coming in. And then at the end of the year, I just had someone just to kind of go back and triple check and quadruple check to make sure that I was doing everything okay. So I definitely would recommend, once you have the opportunity, to really outsource that accounting piece. Because as we've learned, filing and numbers and making sure that everything is just in alignment is very important to your business, especially if you want to remain client to even own a business. So,
yeah. And then the whole tax portion thing,
yep.
again, outsource that. For the first few years that I was in business, y'all, I went to the library because there was this group of retired CPAs that did other people's taxes for fun. I don't understand that, but it was fun for them. And I remember I maybe it was long, like year 4 or 5, and the gentleman, I had all my papers neatly filed. This was way before we could be paperless with the IRS. And he's like, honey, I think you need to hire like a professional. I mean, this is like personal and too much business stuff. And it just so happened that I was in a networking group called TWEZA, Tennessee Wedding Event Specialists Association. And there was a speaker there named Michael, and he just happened to be a CPA. So I went up to him afterwards and I'm like, hey, can you do my stuff? Like if I just bring you all these papers. And his company, I mean, they were my accounting firm for 16 years. So it's really, really important to make sure that you find the right people. And also too, the laws change every year. And as I get older, more experienced, there's new services that continue to come up. For example, 3 years ago, influencer marketing, affiliate marketing, some of these gray areas that you might think someone is just a lifestyle blogger and it looks so much fun. And I'm sure it is fun, but it also is a business. And they're getting affiliate strategic marketing dollars from many brands and companies. And those larger companies are filing those numbers on their taxes. And if you don't do that, you will get a nice little letter from the IRS. And sometimes it comes certified mail where you have to sign for it. And how do I know these things? Because it's happened to me. So take my word for it. Like the IRS doesn't take back like, oh, you didn't know? Okay, you get a get out of jail. I didn't go to jail, but like a hall pass kind of thing. No, you get a big fat fine. So having someone who's keeping up with those laws so that you don't find yourself, not that it's the end of the world. It's just, as a business owner, like I want to do the right thing, but I didn't know. And if someone doesn't tell me, then how the heck am I supposed to know there's a new law in place? Oh, and when the, what is it called? Like presidency and the House and like all the political stuff changes over, like that changes things too. So it's just really important to stay on top of that. Now, you as a business owner, you have enough to worry about. So that's why I'm saying like outsource it to someone. And if you think you can't afford it, at least 1 or 2 times a year, just don't eat for about a week or don't go to Starbucks 3 times in a week. That's what I meant. I didn't mean don't eat anything.
We're not encouraging people to not eat.
And the most important thing to a business owner is wellness. Self-care. Care.
Yes. Make sure that you do eat, but you could probably cut back on the Starbucks like Angela said. But I think those are all great things. If you want to know more about financial tips, we have a great podcast that released this week with Jerry Detweiler. It released this past Tuesday. I don't remember what date that was, but if you look up Business Unveiled on iTunes or go to our website, angelaprofit.com, you can see our podcast tab and you will be able to listen to that episode. So Melanie Jacobs had a great question for us. She said, hi, Melanie, first off.
Hi, Melanie.
She said, one of my time sucks is doing the same emails over and over for events and clients, and I need to learn automation and funnels. Yes, automation and funnels is great. Another tip or trick that we have, Angela started realizing that people were asking the same questions over and over, which means typing out the same email over and over, and decided, why don't we just post it on our blog and host it on our website? So for those frequently asked questions, those FAQs, you can make an FAQ section on your site, or you can create them into blog postings on your site, which can then be made into content for your social media. So that time suck kind of turns into a great thing for your blog and SEO purposes. If anyone wants to elaborate on that.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I would do. And the other thing too, Melanie, when people are asking you the question and you know that you have it on your blog, there's a couple things that you can do. You can go to your own blog and copy and paste the URL and then hit reply and say, oh, that answer is actually on my blog. Click on the link below. And if you have any other questions at all, be sure to go into the search function into my blog and type in the question. And if you can't find an answer, absolutely email it to me. And then that tells you, oh, I need to go do a blog on that. And oftentimes I'll go do a video on it. I mean, that's why and how we have so much content, is because I'll keep a list of all the questions that we get on a daily basis. And then I'll do a quick video. We'll have it transcribed. Amanda uses Otter.ai, which is super affordable. I think it's like $12 a month. It's not perfect, so you got to go back and read it and make sure it makes sense, and then post it on your blog. And like Amanda says, that's organic, free search, SEO, search engine optimization. So if people keep asking the same question, people in the world probably have the same question too. So that means they're Googling that question. And so that helps Google find your website, and it's going to help potential clients find you and your service or your venue for the event. So that is absolutely a great question.
So another question we have is from Jim, and he said, oh man, our Tuesday and Friday meetings are my biggest time suck. Well, my question for you, Jim, would be why? Why are they your biggest time suck? Because if you're having a meeting, there should be a purpose for that meeting, right? So I would try to hone in on why the meetings are not being productive, and maybe have a roadmap for the meeting, a goal that you want to have for the meeting. And if there's no goal for the meeting, then why have it? Does anyone else have any input on that? Some snap clap.
That's all I have. I mean, I'm a huge fan of upfront contracts, is what I like to call them. And I learned this in a Salesforce training. Like, I'm already knowing going into a meeting, like what I need to prepare for, what I can expect. I definitely think if that tone is not set, then why, like you said, why are we having this meeting? What are the takeaways? What should we expect here? What are the expectations? But no, I completely agree with everything that you said, Amanda.
Yeah, the other thing too, I'm in an entrepreneur group, and we have an agenda for every single meeting, and we have a time limit on every single item, and then we have a timekeeper. And not that in our all-day strategy meetings that I keep time on an actual timer. Sometimes I will, because I'll just get so excited and carried away. But I have an outline in my head, and I'm like watching the clock because I know what we need to get through. And a lot of our meetings, I'm sure all of you have seen the TikToks of that could have been an email. And I'm like, it could not be an email, and it could not be a video. Like, the type of meetings that we have are very meaningful, and we need to Zoom with the client, or, in-person meetings. You can do everything over Zoom now, but picking their brain and getting the most valuable information out sometimes during a brainstorming session, for a branding session or a marketing session, or for a branding event or a wedding or anything like that, it really helps to keep that person focused, especially if they're ADHD like I am. It's like an email or a video is not going to keep their attention, but you want to be very meaningful and very purposeful. And if there is no reason to meet, like Amanda said, don't meet. And if you're not the one setting the agenda and you're just meeting for team camaraderie or to address any client situations, I would put some type of system in place, Jim. For example, I would say, hey, all my team members, if you guys have a question or a comment or a concern about a client or anything that we need to discuss internally, send it to me. Or I think they use Slack. I can't remember, but have a process. Use Slack or email me or put it on Todoist or whatever project management software you use. And the day before, if no one has put anything there, don't have a meeting. There's no reason to do it just to do it. So create a process for it.
Yes, awesome. So moving on. So I love this next one because we have learned so much from our own experience in doing this. And Angela, I'm going to pause for a second. I think you're muted on Clubhouse if you want to take a look on that real quick.
Yes, thank you. I
Okay.
just saw your message. We're multitasking over here.
So I'll make sure people can hear you. But we've learned and experienced a lot of this ourselves in the past few years with our podcast. And so having a process, and he didn't really have a question, but one of his time sucks is auditioning for acting and speaking engagements and also podcast guest spots. So having a process for doing that so that you don't have to fill out all the stuff every time, all that good stuff. Take it away, Angela.
So we have a playlist in YouTube, and there are public playlists and there are unlisted playlists or private playlists where you can supply the links to people. So for example, we have a podcast playlist with samples where I'm interviewing people on my own podcast. I have solo podcasts where it's just me talking to our GSD community. And then it is me as a guest on other people's podcasts. And then we have a speaking, and then we have a virtual event playlist. So depending on what people are looking for, I have a playlist for everything. And if you're a new speaker or if you're a new actor or whatever it may be, you want to keep up with all of the things that you actually do that turn into, even if it's a free gig that you're doing. I mean, I still to this day do some things not for free, but I don't necessarily have a speaking fee if they're going to purchase one of my courses or one of my books. For all of the people in the audience, depending on what the audience needs are, as long as that is going to cover my daily fee of me being out of the office, it doesn't matter where it comes from. So you really want to start keeping up with what are you doing and how are you spending your time. And so you should have access to all of the recordings if you're on a podcast, or if you are doing videos to put yourself out there as an actor or actress. Keep up with those on, even again, you can make it unlisted or private on YouTube. When you're submitting those videos, keep up with those videos and build a playlist. And then a year will pass by and you'll blink your eyes and be like, holy cow, I've been on 40 podcasts and submitted 28 videos. I mean, it really does add up. We actually keep up with it on the back end of WordPress because people will say, where have you spoken before? Or what companies have you spoken for? And so every time I go and speak, Amanda will go in on the back end and put the logo, what the title was, and who I was speaking to. And there will come a point one day where you're like, what was that group? and if you really start to do it again professionally, it's hard to remember every single itty bitty little thing. So you definitely want to keep up with that yourself so then you can go and share it with others. You can also put together a one sheet and just make it a PDF. And again, we put it on the back end of WordPress so we can always send that link to people. You can send them a Dropbox link or a Google Drive link. So anything that you guys are having to do over and over and over, create a process. Stop what you're doing. And if somebody asks you more than 2 times, that means someone is going to ask you again. So make the time, put it on your calendar, even if it's a Saturday or a Sunday. It doesn't have to be right in that moment. But if you will stop and create something for an hour, think of how many hours it's going to save you long term. So that is a great question. Aja, do you have any tips?
I would say I just kind of mirror that. I would definitely say, first of all, the question I would want to know is, like when you're going and applying to be on these podcasts, and then I think you said acting, if they are asking you the same question or asking you to provide, like, I don't know, for example, some type of welcome video or introduction video about yourself, I think definitely even having like something electronically to where they can land. So maybe like a landing page. There are free platforms out there where you don't have to pay to build out something very robust. But I would encourage you to keep all of that electronically. And then another thing that I know we haven't really touched on, Angela, is whatever you do as far as like if you are sending the same introduction video to multiple different people, making sure that it is evergreen and you don't have a specific time or date, or you're not saying a specific company, if you can do that. I don't know how personalized it needs to be, but I would just kind of keep those things in mind when you're continuously sending out, I guess, multiple introduction pieces to different people.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, so I was at the gym yesterday morning, and one of the trainers came up to me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast with Jerry, and I'm so glad that I listened to it, because it's like I kind of felt dumb, but like," and I'm like, no, don't feel dumb. Like, I didn't know some of these things either. I'm like, we learned the hard way. This is why I have the podcast and have finance experts come on. And she's like, "What's evergreen?" That's like, Christmas decor. I'm like, "Girl, I thought the same thing." And like, we laughed about it. I'm like, no, evergreen means that it's going to be good for a while. Meaning, whenever I'm doing a podcast, I'm like, that podcast was Jerry. I think it was done 4 or 5 months ago. So like, I think back then it was like we were in political time, or I don't talk about like Merry Christmas or Happy New Year or, oh, it's Easter, oh, Happy Spring. Like, you want to leave things out. So the podcast or the video, like I was just pointing out, will be good for a while. And I do that all the time. So when someone asks me a question and I'm making content, I'm not like, "Hey, Jim, you asked about paperwork and here's what you can do." It's like, some of you have asked about paperwork because usually people ask some of the same things, as Melanie pointed out. And so, yes, Aja, that is a very great point, to keep it evergreen so you don't have to say the same thing twice.
All about it.
And not to bring up the C word, the dreaded C word, but in the past year on our podcast, Angela's podcast, everyone wants to say the word COVID. And then like, you have to say, Angela has said throughout the whole time, well, depending on when you're listening to this, because hopefully it will be obsolete sometime soon. But that has been a big word that is not really evergreen, that's been used in the last year.
And Pat said evergreen is the term we use in news. It's future proofed. Love it.
I love that. That's so good. I'm going to use that. Alrighty. So our next time suck is from Renee. She said, explaining written messages to people who just don't get it. Text and WhatsApp messages are straightforward, but they just choose to ask for explanations. So what I think here is maybe rethink your mindset a little bit. We use, in Angela's company, with all of our clients, multiple forms of communication. If someone's not understanding it from a written format, what I may recommend is to try it from a visual format. I know a lot of us may be scared at first to get ourselves in front of a camera, but you would be blown away how much people understand better by being able to see your face. And also sometimes sharing your screen on your computer if there's things that they visually need to see that just can't be seen through email or text message. Some great things for that. Angela is a big cheerleader for Marco Polo. We use Marco Polo every day. That is more of an internal team thing, depending on your relationship with your clients, how structured it is. You may not want to use Marco Polo, but other things that may be good for you. BombBomb is a great video app, and it is a plugin for your Chrome browser. If you use Chrome, I think Internet Explorer might use it. We primarily use Chrome. And also Loom. That's one that we have really fallen in love with because you can share your screen and see your face at the same time. And then you can actually see when people have watched your message and they can comment any questions that they have there. So those are some great tools that can hopefully help that miscommunication that it seems that's going on because they're not understanding the written text communication.
And Aja, would you like to elaborate on the internal Marco Polo processes?
Not so much Marco Polo, but I do agree that one thing that I continuously say is definitely customizing the message the way your clients or customers or whoever that is needs to hear it. I think that that is so very important, and just to very high level understand that we all are so very different, and how we learn and how we receive information and process information is so very different. So I definitely think that reframing that and would encourage you even to just kind of ask your clients, and some clients will just straight up tell you like, hey, like, I love it when, I get these Loom videos or these Marco Polos, or, I really just like it when it's a short, concise email. And so then, moving forward with that particular client, like, okay, like this is the form of communication that's going to work best for them. And once you know that, it honestly, for me, it makes it easier on both parties. I don't know how you all feel about that, but I mean, once you know like how people will receive information and process it, it just kind of makes life on both parties a little bit easier.
So I'm over here laughing because as far as Marco Polo goes, y'all, like and this is it was worse before the pandemic, because I would have literally like 3 minutes in between meeting to meeting, or if I was like driving to another meeting, and I would like get on Marco Polo and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And this is why you have like an open door communication with like team members and vendors and people that you work with. It's like, work together to make sure that each person's needs are being met. And so I'll just get on there, and then I was just like, quit asking me to do things in Marco Polo. Like, I'm not going to go back and do it and rewatch it. And I'm like, oh God, I guess that is annoying. Okay. So I use Marco Polo to further clarify or give an explanation, or I'll put it on our Todoist app or like in our project management system. And then I'll put in parentheses, like, see my Marco Polo on 3:15 at 4:30. It's just easier sometimes. And then Amanda, I think you brought it to my point. You're like, can you let me know if I need to like be at my computer or if I need to have my headphones in? Like, what are you about to say? Because sometimes like I'll mention someone's name that we are working with and they're in the public eye. And if you're standing in Starbucks or somewhere in line and you are listening to it publicly without your headphones, then people like turn around and stare at you. And then here you are vomiting all this confidential information.
And you just turn it off real quick.
Yeah. Or we'll say like, if you're not listening to this alone, please stop now. So you want to outline the expectation for what people are about to hear. And so I'll say, hey, this is really important. It's time sensitive. Or, hey, these are some things that need to get followed up on tomorrow. Make sure you're at your computer or you're not driving. And make sure you had have your headphones in, or make sure you're listening to this alone. So let people know like what they're about to see or hear. And then I also preface like, this is not going to be a kid-friendly Marco Polo, because oftentimes there are people like my mother and my brother, and there's like kids around all the time. And I'm like, please don't listen to this around the kids, because I'm probably going to say a few cuss words. So, just let people know like set them up for success when you are sending them a video. Okay. What's the next question?
Such great tips. Okay, so next one, Monica, one of her biggest time sucks is data gathering for marketing. And I feel like this is a multifaceted answer. But Aja, I feel like this would be a great one for you to take on. Just what are your thoughts on data gathering?
Yeah, I definitely think I'd start with, first off, it's a lot, girl. I feel you. But there's many things to this. So I'm sorry, I'm like distracted by the. Okay, so there's softwares, and I think you all use Sprout Social, right? Which has a robust, potentially maybe has a robust reporting platform as far as if we're talking about social channels. But the first thing that I would start with is really like honing in on what information you're looking for. And that could honestly be the hardest thing to start with from the get-go. You don't need all information. So I would definitely like hone in on what questions you have, so you can better go and search for the information that you need, because there's so much out there. So for example, if you run some type of e-commerce business and you're like, hey, like I really want to know how many people are visiting my website per month. Well, I can tell you two metrics and two things to look at. One being, Google Analytics would be a great starting point, and looking at the traffic, and then looking at the demographic of the people who are visiting your website. But I don't know how you all feel. There's all kinds of software out there that will spit all kinds of information at you. But the best way that I can answer this question is really figuring out what questions you want to know from the data first, and then going and searching those particular platforms. I don't think that you need a very robust platform, especially if you're just starting out. I know Angela may have some other things to say about that, but I definitely think like when you know that what questions you're looking for, it's easier to find the data that you seek.
100%, knowing the questions first. So a couple of things that people come to us for, they'll say, I want to do a facelift on my website, or I want to open a new location for a store. And so in those circumstances, my first thought is, let's look at your Google Analytics and let's see what people are actually clicking on your current website, because that will give us a lot of insight before we move a bunch of data over. And we typically do the strategy for it. And if people need help building it out, like, we work with third-party vendors that we oversee the project. But I don't like to just pull it out of my butt. It's like, the data doesn't lie. And what I think and what the data says is two different things. Y'all hear me say that all the time, like, the data doesn't lie. And so your Google Analytics, even like the dashboard, and y'all, it's free. And it blows my mind that marketing companies sell and build amazing websites. It looks beautiful. You can have the most beautiful website in the world, but if it's not set up on the back end and it's not connected to Google Analytics or another platform, like I know Squarespace has their own, but the analytics are different from Google. Y'all, Google is the largest search engine in the entire freaking world. You want to use their tool that is free. Now, there is a hidden agenda. They want you to advertise with them, but that's besides the point. Like, you don't have to, but you want to see what people are doing. Where are they spending time? There's also another free tool called Hotjar. So it's a heat map. So it shows you, it basically records the screen. And this is so important to figure out what people are doing on a desktop or an iPad or a smartphone. So if you're not paying attention to that, you're going to be missing major opportunities. The other thing, I was on a tech call the other day with a company that I'm on their board, and their platform is in beta. It looks amazing on the desktop. And they were going through some analytics, and I'm like, but wait a minute, where's the analytics from the mobile phone? They were having conversion problems. And they were like, no one had ever looked at the analytics on the mobile phone. And I'm just, they're so close to it because they're developers and they're building this. And I'm just like, you guys stop. Like, you've got to build it to be mobile friendly, and the call to action button has got to be in the phone view without people scrolling. So that's key. The other thing with analytics too, if you have any type of an email, a CRM, which hopefully you should, if you don't, go sign up for MailChimp. It's free, I believe, up to like 2,000 contacts. Keep your customer data somewhere. If you are conversing with people on social media, make sure you get their name and their email or their phone number and keep up with that somewhere in the CRM. Own your own audience, because if something happened to a platform or if something goes away, you're screwed. So make sure that you have their information. But pulling data from your marketing email analytics is also really important, because if you're putting out content all the time and no one's opening your emails or no one's clicking on your call to action buttons, something's wrong. So how you can fix it is simply ask your audience, why did you sign up for my list in the first place? What can I do to help you? Because you're doing all the things anyway. But if you're not reaching your audience, you're really wasting your time, unless you're putting it out on social media and people are engaging with your content that way. Those are the biggest two analytics, our CRM and all of the domains and websites that we have and we host, and for our clients, we are constantly doing that. And there's different data dashboard platforms that you can also utilize, like Sife, there's Gruffly, there's a bunch of different ones. But don't go spending ad money or boost anything until you have everything tracking. And we don't have time to get into Facebook pixel codes or tracking codes, but there are codes that you can put on your website from your social media posts as well, or your social media platforms, to make sure everything is being tracked. Aja actually has a group that she teaches people how to make sure all your stuff is being tracked. This is for like specifically Facebook and Instagram ads. The Gray Collective. Is that the website, Aja? thegraycollective.com?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do want to just kind of like hop in. I know, because I do like those softwares. But if you, again, I just looking at budget friendly, I do want to say, like, all of the native platforms, they do report themselves. So I think it's really important to say that. I think what the beauty of these softwares is that it combines it all for you, and then it spits out like customer behavior literally in just like one platform. And that is the beautiful thing of these softwares. But if you are going to look at it and you don't want to, particularly invest in that software at the time, I do want to mention that each respective platform has its own native reporting measures. So just wanted to put that out there.
Just set it up. Just set it up.
Yes.
And that's the other thing. Like, again, if you're going to be spending money and dollars, make sure that you are looking at the data and looking at the analytics. And y'all, listen, today we are talking about stuff that is not fun. Like, we get it. But when you start to look at your analytics and you start to make business decisions and where to spend your marketing dollars based on data, and it starts to work, analytics become real fun, real fast. Yes, real fast. What's next, Amanda?
I want to see analytics everywhere. Alrighty. Well, I know that our time is coming quickly to a close. So the last time suck, and then I have a success to share. The last time suck is from Trey, and he said that his biggest time suck is sleeping. And I can say that's probably a lot of people's big time suck, but sleep is so important. You cannot operate at your best and present your best self to anyone, including yourself, if you do not take care of yourself and get sleep, and also eat, as we mentioned earlier in the video.
Wellness is the theme of this topic today. Oh, goodness. Ange, do you want to take that?
So you're laughing because in my 20s and in my 30s, early 30s, I'm like, I'll sleep when I die. I don't need to sleep. Y'all, I would stay up probably there were some nights, 3 nights in a row, because I was a workaholic. When you love what you do, it's easy to stay up. Adrenaline keeps you going. It was not healthy. It was horrible. It's like I never could shut my brain off. And then when I started to travel a lot in my early 30s, I got sick a lot. And my doctor, my primary care doctor, was like, you are traveling so much. Like I was in different time zones. I would just wear myself down. And she's like, you have to sleep. I'm like, I don't know how. Like, I can't turn my brain off. And so she's like, here's some Ambien. I'm like, that stuff doesn't work. And it didn't. Like, I'm so high strung. Not that I have anxiety, but it's like I have this excitement, like this fuel under me where it's like, I don't want to go to sleep. And I'll even fight it to like sit up and like finish editing a video or something because I'm so excited about it. But I got the flu like Thanksgiving and Christmas one year. It was horrible, many, many years ago. And it was kind of like I knew that I needed to sleep. It wasn't about like taking more medicine or trying to drug myself or even drinking wine to make myself go to bed. And so she told me to try melatonin because I love gummies, y'all. Like, I'm like a gummy farm over here. I've got like my glucosamine gummies. I've got my hair collagen gummies. I've got my vitamin C immune care gummies. I hate swallowing pills, but like I'll eat gummies all day long. And then my dentist is like, stop eating gummies. Like your teeth are going to fall out. Like all my teeth are fake. I love my dentist. I hate the dentist though. Gross. Anyway, so I've spent a lot of the time in the dentist recently. My mouth is like this big, but it's like that wasn't going to fix things. Like I needed to sleep 8 hours. And then Pat Summit. So I went to UT. She was the basketball coach for the Lady Vols like forever. She died of Alzheimer's very young. And so I started to listen to podcasts about it. And they, like a lot of experts and medical doctors were saying that an early onset of Alzheimer's is if you don't sleep and your body doesn't go into that, I think like REM or whatever it is. Like you need to sleep 8 hours. And I'm like, shoot, like I don't want to die early because I'm not sleeping. And then I started listening to Ariana Huffington. She came to Belmont and spoke. She wrote a whole book all about sleep. And so I immediately like listened to that on Audible. And then I started listening to all these TED Talks about sleep. And I'm like, I really got to sleep. I got to train my body, potty train my brain. And I did. So it took about a year for me to actually turn it off. I don't have to take melatonin anymore, but that did help. And I would start at 100 and count down backwards. Sometimes I'll just nowadays just like look at TikTok and I set an alarm and that like helps me get tired. But you've got to make an effort to sleep 8 hours. And everybody's different, but like 6 to 10. And I'm always getting on to Aja and other people that are emailing me in the middle of the night and or texting or Marco Polo, which I don't care. My stuff's on do not disturb. It's not going to disturb me, but I'm constantly on people because I wish someone would have taken the time to tell me like, hey, you're just shortening your lifespan. If you don't treat your body the right way it needs to be treated, we've got to sleep. Now, if you get good quality sleep, then you shouldn't require naps and you shouldn't be tired. But if you are, something else is medically wrong. The next step I would say is get a flippin' sleep study. And I have a friend the other day, she said, oh my gosh, I just thought I was a low energy person. She went in for a colonoscopy. When they were in there, she came out and she's like, the nurse was like, did you know you have sleep apnea? Did you know you snore really loud when you're asleep? And she's like, no, I had no idea. So she goes and sees the sleep specialist and it's like every 6 minutes, like the oxygen just would stop, which is really scary. Like your heart stops, not to get all nerdy on you, but and it does suck. It's like, oh, I got to wear a CPAP in the middle of the night. That's not very sexy, especially when you're dating. But it's like, it requires good sleeping. Okay. And like, there's new night guards and things that are like much more sexy than like a big old machine that's like making noise. I'm just being real with y'all. Okay.
I didn't know that Angela was a sleep specialist, and now you know.
And we are not WebMD. I just want to make that clear. We are not
We
WebMD.
are not. We are not.
We'll have to buy a domain, Angela MD. I'll go look on.
Like what?
I used to recruit. Like I helped open the sleep center here at Baptist Hospital, which is now St. Thomas Midtown. But I recruited like all these sleep specialists. So I know way more than I like care to know about it. But when she said that to me, she's like, it felt like someone had just cured my cancer. And she's like, I just needed to know that. And she had cancer. She's had a lot of health problems. But now the doctors that are working together as a team, it all attributed back to her not being able to sleep for like the past 20 years of her business life, because she's owned a business for about 20 years. So that's how important sleep is. And when you don't sleep, it can lead to other things because your immune system can't keep up. So I will stop being all serious and Angela WebMD over here. Sleep is important. Trey, you got to flip and sleep, dude.
If you learned anything from this evening, just sleep is important.
Yeah.
Well, to end out our night here, I think that this is a great share. Jean shared with us that at this point in her life, she does not let anything or anyone take up too much of her time. And I think that that's great.
I love that. Jean, what's her last name? I gotta go find her.
She's an incredible artist. She was a client in New York. And I went in and took all her Apple technology for her company. and fixed it all and put all of her calendars together. And I'm like, girlfriend, you got way too many calendars. And she's like, just get rid of them all. I'm like, but you have like a kid calendar, a family calendar. Like we can't just get rid of them all. Like that would not be a good decision. But we consolidated a lot of things and then had the hard discussion of it's okay to say no. And so I'm so happy to hear that she's actually to that point in her life where she allows time for things that she wants to do. And that's it. Like, that's an awesome place to be.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
Well, yay. I think that wraps it up, ladies.
Awesome.
Yay.
Everybody that tuned in on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Clubhouse, thank you so much for listening, guys. And comment, DM, send us your messages. Let us know what's your number one time suck. We're here to provide productivity solutions for you so that you can be more effective in your business and just in everyday life. Everybody stay productive and have a GSD day. Yes, Amanda.
One more thing. You can text us.
Oh, yes, we have a new text number. Rhonda, what's up? She said, thank you. Sleep is self-care. Yes, give everybody our text number.
Yes, text us your number one time suck. 615-527-8755. We need to create a jingle so we can
615, what is it?
5. What is it?
615-527-8755.
Okay, I got it.
Hey, girl. Hey. So Amanda is an amazing songwriter, and Aja is an awesome rapper. And I'm not awesome at either of those, but they come up with these fun jingles. And so next time we will come on with a fun jingle. So that is our phone number for our new GSD text community. And we are so excited. And thank you, Amanda, for sharing that.
Of course. Well, yay.
Peace,
Awesome.
y'all.
Bye,
Have a
y'all.
great night.
Bye.
Bye.